Call of Duty is a long-standing series, and one that many players will recognize. Whether it's Modern Warfare, Black Ops, or another spin-off series, players have fond memories of these games. Initially, I got into these games when I was just at a young age. I'll never forget being 9 years old and just getting past the loading screen on these games was a challenge. That's not even mentioning the nightmare-inducing zombies experience. Years later, I want to return to these games as the newer games in the series have been a letdown. Can you beat Black Ops 1 with pistols only? Well, this will be interesting to say the least. Similar to the daggers only challenges, this has been a series on the channel where I go through various games seeing if pistols only is possible. Why pistols only? Why not snipers or something else? Daggers and pistols in their respective games are generally weaker than the other options, whether it's a broadsword to a katana, or in this case a rifle, DMR, SMG, and so on. Before we dive into the video, I should first lay out some ground rules for the run. Starting things off, we must use pistols only. There are a variety of pistols to use, with there being about a handful in total. You'll have to hope certain missions start with them, and or they are easily accessible. The game will be played on the veteran difficulty, aka the most difficult option. Next, we must beat the game. There are over 10 plus missions, so it'll be interesting to see how things fare. Lastly, glitches and or exploits are allowed, so expect some cheeky ways to take down enemies and get around areas. The Call of Duty series varies in its quality, but this time period of games I really enjoyed. Because of this, I wanted to continue the pistols only challenge that I started on Republic Commando game. Check that out if you are interested. I plan to go through more of these games, so let me know if this is something you'd like. I'll put up on screen now all the previous pistols only challenges, and I'll link the playlist down below in the description. Make sure to smash the like button, comment, and subscribe if you haven't yet. Without further ado, let's get into the run. Waking up in an interrogation room, come to find out that our main character's name is Alex Mason. We're asked an assortment of questions, but ultimately the man behind the glass asks us, what do the numbers mean? All of a sudden, numbers appear on the TV, but Mason is unable to recall their meaning. Because of this, the interrogator thinks it's necessary to start from the beginning, so we start on our first mission. One aspect of the Treyarch games that I really enjoy is the cutscenes in between missions and interrogation sequences. The blend of animation and footage from that time period really helps to make you feel immersed in the world. World at War had a similar approach, and so that is one of the many reasons that I really enjoyed these games. After getting introduced to Woods and Bowman, Cuban police try to question us. That is when Mason and the others start their attack. Fortunately, this mission starts with a pistol, so we were able to push forward immediately, rather than struggling to find one around the map. Pistols compared to most weaponry will have more limits restricted on them, range and ammo capacity being the biggest. Something that became clear early on was how few pistols there were to find, whether that was looting it off of corpses or picking it off of like a table or a counter. Each shot I had to make count, exploit my allies' auto-aim to get past areas, not get too aggressive. The veteran difficulty is no joke, similar to the other COD pistol only entries, but thankfully not as grenade heavy as World at War. Once again, I would highly recommend after watching this to check out the previous pistol only challenges to see how those challenges compare in each game. Ultimately, it ends when we take down Castro, though this is actually a double and not the real target, and get captured by Dragovich, Kravchenko, and Castro. Even though this is the first mission, I knew immediately that things were going to be fun but interesting going forward. Before the mission ends, the player has to defend the plane as it's taking off. While I did avoid taking down most enemies, getting hit a bunch instead, I did have to eventually fire a non-pistol. As such, we are going to have to count this against the run. I'll put a counter in the corner so we can keep track of how many times in total. As Mason and Reznov storm out of the camp, it's a good time to further speak about the aforementioned point. Call of Duty series, like many other games, has various sections where the player is on the rails, so to speak, or is given a limited choice of weapons. This mission is a prime example of this. Fortunately, after Black Ops 2, I believe, the player can select a loadout in the campaign. It'll be interesting when it comes to that. Pistols only in this run evidently is not possible, but this is something that I've come to realize from the past two pistol only Call of Duty challenges. World at War and MW2 had a lot of times where the player was forced to use a certain weapon, rather than have the freedom to choose what they bring. World at War was the most egregious of the two. While I would like to have the opportunity to go through these with pistols only, it's just not possible. As such, we will continue, making sure to use pistols only when the opportunity is given, alongside counting the number of times where non-pistols are forced. At the end, I'll compare the end total to the previous challenges and reflect my thoughts on the run as a whole, so stay tuned for that. In the end, Mason was able to escape while Reznov was captured. Subsequently, Mason and Hudson go to the Pentagon to speak regarding classified information. This whole mission, the player doesn't have control over any actions. It's mostly meant to show the threat of Dragovich, alongside how Mason has gone insane from whatever these numbers are. For those who have never played the game or heard the storyline, this won't make any sense yet, but just wait till the end. After some time, Mason, Woods, Bowman, and Weaver stealthily breach an enemy encampment. Starting with a Python revolver, this should make quick work of most enemies. There was this one section where the player has to reach the top of this tower. By this point, the Russians know that we have breached their base, so it is just all-out gunfire. Even though pistols are optimal in CQC engagements, it doesn't mean I'll win every gunfight, since these NPCs are just cracked with their aiming. I'd pop around the corner only to get instantly melted. Needless to say, I took things slowly going forward, but it definitely took a few tries. At the top of the tower, we must now rescue Weaver since he has been captured. This unfortunately meant the player had to use a crossbow. As I've been mentioning, the sections where the player has to stop the rocket. Another tally to the missions that could not be completed with pistols only. I did end up acquiring a few pistols during the mission, but for obvious reasons is still counted against the run as the entire mission needs to be used with pistols only. Back in the interrogation room, Mason is becoming increasingly agitated, while at the same time delirious from the bombardment of questions and voltage. The interrogator thinks it's necessary to continue the questions. Time is of the essence. Because of this, Mason recalls the next mission. One minor thing that can be frustrating when making videos is being aware of music and all the copyright stuff that comes with it. This mission starts with a banger Fortunate Son, which I really enjoy, but for obvious reasons, it is something that the holders do not enjoy other people using without permission. But yeah, instead I got to listen to the great helicopter noises. Overall, this and the next mission were the hardest in the whole game. Enemies would continue to respawn in certain sections, alongside having more explosive weaponry than before, such as RPGs and weapons similar. In both of these missions, the player does not start with a pistol and is unable to acquire one early on, so we are going to have to count this against the run. Because of this, I'll skip past these missions. One thing that you shouldn't skip though is heading over to the VODs channel. Here I post the streams and highlights from the challenges I complete. Whether it's this challenge, to Saw No Deaths, and beyond, you can find it all there. It's been great seeing people enjoy the content over there. While we are at this point, you might as well hit the like button and comment below your favorite Call of Duty. I know for myself it would be probably like Black Ops 1 to BO3, that era, as those multiplayer memories were just unmatched, both zombies and normal multiplayer. MW3 is definitely up there though. Hudson and Weaver needing to find information on Nova 6, a deadly nerve agent, they both fly overseas to meet with Clark, though he doesn't appreciate our friendly chat. Thankfully, we start with a pistol, and more importantly, find multiple throughout the mission. Coming from MW2 and Sniper Elite 3 pistols only, it's really fascinating to see how far and few pistols are in this game, very similar to World at War. MW2 was the most forgiving for this type of challenge. Why is that? MW2 had pistols, but also machine pistols. Both of these categories could be used in the playthrough. Sniper Elite 3, the player could have one pistol at a time, which was a hindrance, but they were able to find them super easily around the map, alongside ammo generally being plentiful. BO1 and World at War are very different in that regard. Both have few pistols to begin with, 5 for World at War and 6 for BO1. That may seem like a lot, but enemies will only use weapons for that faction. For instance, you wouldn't find a Viet Cong enemy with an American revolver. Then there's getting ammo. MW2 and Sniper Elite 3 both had resupply crates, while World at War and Black Ops 1 don't have a single one. Whenever there was a weapon table, 9 times out of 10 there was rifles, shotguns, etc. Basically everything but pistols. This was pretty much the only mission from this campaign where it seems like the game is just throwing pistols at you the entire time. The CZ75 was a beast in this mission. Attachments are going to be more common in these Call of Duty games going forward, whether that's akimbo / dual wielding to an extended magazine. These will only help us going forward. The full auto attachment worked great. Gosh, once you get the akimbo full auto CZs, you just feel like an unstoppable titan, even on the veteran difficulty. Eventually we get the information we came for, then I had to endure the super broken area. The player is forced in this one position where no movement is allowed, besides maybe crawling a few inches in each direction, and so I basically had no cover. Thankfully I was able to get past, but man was it really arduous. I think this next mission is probably my favorite in the whole game, since it reveals a lot about Nova 6, alongside the player coming to a devastating realization near the end. Reznov talks to the camera, speaking about Dragovich, Kravchenko, and Steiner. While it doesn't explicitly say this, I believe this is when Mason and Reznov were at the camp before they escaped. Reznov told his stories, and so that is why the two had a strong friendship. We're thrown into Reznov's shoes shortly after the events of World at War's campaign. Dmitry Petrenko was another key character within that campaign, actually the main character of that game. Using the PPSH, MP40, and all the other World War II weaponry was super enjoyable. Though obviously it's not pistols, so we are going to have to count this against the run. Taking down the remnants of the Germans, we eventually find Steiner, a mad doctor who agrees to make a deal with the Russians. With Dragovich needing to see the effects of Nova 6 firsthand, he forcibly pushes friendly troops into the chamber, Dmitry being one of them. It was really unfortunate to see, but it's interesting to see the catalyst that caused Reznov to seek revenge. I would like to say that beyond that mission, 1, 2, or more missions could be completed with pistols only, but yeah, that's just not possible. The World at War mission was about halfway through the campaign. That just goes to show how long the player is on the rails for these sections. Most of these I was able to use a pistol for I'd say 80% of the time. Then there were those few sections where, I had to drive a boat with rockets and MG turrets, a Russian Hind, or a variety of weapons that just force on the player. I think it is abundantly clear that Black Ops 1 could not be completed with pistols only, and was the most egregious of the pistols only challenges regarding how non-often we are given them. I think this is a good point to conclude the story, then discuss the challenge as a whole, because otherwise it would just be me repeating myself for the next 5 missions. Mason, Woods, and Bowman get captured, resulting in Bowman dying. Woods and Mason press onwards. That is when we see Reznov, and he gives us some helpful advice. Shortly ahead, the soldier that we were with seems confused for some reason. Causes an enemy to get the sneak attack. Mason and Reznov then set out to take revenge on Steiner, which is this really cool sequence of going through this laboratory and then defeating him. Very next mission, Hudson and Weaver follow Mason in order to stop him. This is when everything is revealed to the player. Reznov died a long time ago, essentially shortly after Mason's escape from Vorkuta. All the times Mason saw Reznov, it was in his head, because of the number sequences that Dragovich, Kravchenko, and Steiner put into his head. Mason responded to the therapy differently than most subjects, caused him to seek out the 3 who wronged him rather than JFK, which is why Mason was going crazy when he visited him in the Pentagon. Even though BO2 is my favorite COD campaign, we wouldn't have it without the golden goose of BO1. Ultimately, we are able to decode the number sequence and find out where it's being broadcasted from. Why is it important that these numbers are being broadcasted? Mason was just one example of a sleeper agent, failed example, but supposedly Dragovich has like hundreds if not thousands more across the United States. Because of this, Hudson and Mason go on one last mission. I think it is so crazy that these past 2 Call of Duties, Black Ops 7 and the remake of MW3, are some of the worst campaigns in the franchise. I'd rather play the Call of Duty 3 campaign, like literally the 3rd Call of Duty, 20 times more than the newer titles. This mission, for example, just goes so hard. It's such a shame that Call of Duty threw away its identity in order to be like Fortnite and like all those other games. BO3, even though I really enjoyed that game when it was first released, all those emotes and skins, I could tell this is when things were starting to go downhill. Nowadays in COD, Siege, Fortnite, and similar titles, the grind is just the microtransactions, not progression, not some rank, spending real life money on something. I miss when you had to really grind in order to show something off. I think like a perfect example of that was Halo Reach. Getting the armor, helmets, skull effects truly felt worthwhile. The end of the campaign was Dragovich's stop. The player gets to witness JFK being an absolute gigachad. That end picture with all 4 of them about to fight the zombies is literally my background for my Xbox One. This is a good time to reflect on the run as a whole. Call of Duty Black Ops 1 is one of my favorite games. It was the first true Call of Duty that I started playing, so I have a lot of good memories from this game. Like the previous pistol-only videos, especially the World at War and MW2 ones, I knew that there would be a few sections or more where the player was on the rails and forced to use a non-pistol. This was to an extreme degree and was way more than any of the other challenges. I'll put up on the screen the end tally for this challenge and the others. Most of this game couldn't be completed with pistols only. I found out by playing through it. There was me being forced to use a crossbow, to flying an Apache helicopter. There were numerous times where these were given to the player as their only option. The veteran difficulty was no joke. Even when I was given non-pistols, each mission was extremely arduous. Regarding future pistol-only challenges, I believe this is the point, at least with the Call of Duty series, where the player is able to choose a loadout and or the pistol category is open back up to pistols and machine pistols. Because of this, hopefully, the future challenges should be doable. But it's all a learning experience. It's fun to do a challenge on these older titles alongside going through these games again. It is saddening, but there is literally just nothing I can do. Thank you you for watching. Make sure to hit the like button, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. Try to do something kind for someone today, whether it's a small or large gesture. This is your boy Skilled Fawn, and I'm out.